we'll just formally start with the session. I'll say good morning to everybody, and I'd like to welcome you to today's session. It's called Freelancing as a Career, and it will be led by Gopal Iyer from Ernst & Young. I hope everybody is staying safe, healthy, and sane in what has been a very difficult couple of months, and especially for the graduating students this year. I had, for many of you probably don't know, I had heard Gopal speak, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We virtually met, as everybody is doing these days, on the impact of COVID on careers. And I remember connecting with you then and saying, you know, just such a positive outlook you had. And we're very like-minded, and I immediately contacted you over the weekend, and I said, would you be interested in doing something like this for ISBF? And you were very very sweet and said, yes, you know, let's put it into the calendar, and we managed to find a slot in your busy schedule for today. Sure. Just very briefly, I had put a very long bio in all the emails, but just to reiterate that Gopal has an amazing career. It spans over 17 years globally and with MNCs. And right now he works for the Gig Now. He heads the Gig Now program at Ernst & Young. And I, for one, am really excited to hear about this, because I feel like everybody's talking about the gig economy, and it's such a buzzword in the industry. So, you know, it's, you know, like I said, I've got my notebook ready for what you have to say today, but I'm not going to take up any more time. We have Dr. Jitin Chadha, who is the ISBF director. He's going to say a few words, and Gopal, after that, the floor is yours.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Jitin?
Thanks,
yeah.
Yeah, it is my pleasure and privilege to have Gopal on the session today. We're very fortunate to have him take out time from his busy schedule and be able to address our students and alumni. I'm particularly excited about the topic he's going to talk about, because it is one of the most relevant topics in today's discussion about work-life post-COVID and the gig economy. I personally am very optimistic, and I feel that, you know, youth in India has great opportunities for career and work, because remote working is now almost an established norm. You could be working for clients anywhere in the world. And I know the kind of education our students have had. It's applied and rigorous. It'd be valuable to recruiters all over the world. So this presents a tremendous opportunity and shift in how we would live and work, particularly as a gig economy worker, being able to give part of our time and talent to various projects. You know, really look forward to hearing Gopal more on this. And also just wanted to add that E&Y has been a real valuable recruiting partner for us. A number of alumni are working there, and the feedback for working at E&Y has been absolutely fantastic. It's a great place to work. They really value human capital and human talent, and, you know, look forward to hearing Gopal and not taking any of his time away.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jitin and Sonia. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to connect with the community today with ISBF. I know it's not an easy time for any of us, and if we were in the pre-COVID glorious days, we would have probably met in person and done the session in one of the auditoriums or of sorts. But I think as they say, technology brings people together, and not just in one geography but globally. So I think that's the power of technology that we should continue leveraging and feel connected at times. So without taking much time, let me quickly pull through what I wanted to talk through today. Can you give me a shout if you're all able to see the screen?
Yes, yeah, Gopal, it's there.
Brilliant. So, as Sonia, you said, we are in an extremely uncertain time. I think we would have wanted things to be much more controlled, much more easier for us to work through I don't think 1st January 2020 would anyone would have thought that we will be talking on 5th June 2020 like this, because of several factors that have impacted the way we work, the way we have been doing things. But I think the lockdown, not just in India but across, and even otherwise, has proven that we sustained through that tough period, and we continue to go through one, but we'll come out stronger. But one thing is certain, that I think whatever said and done, where we will, excuse me, move forward to is going to be a new normal. And are we ready for that? And I think that's something that we will take a close look at, in terms of how it impacts us as professionals, and even aspirants as they are looking towards building a career for themselves. Um, so even before COVID, the future of work was changing, right? I think we continue to look at different ways that the careers were getting shifted due to automation, due to industrialization, due to various ways of us trying to rethink how our customers are doing their businesses, and so on. So we'll talk through a bit of what our present is, how is Industry 4.0 and COVID changing the way we work, what are some of the modern workforce and post-COVID realities that we would see, a bit on collaborative economies, reimagining careers and rethinking the steps to survive and thrive through the new next normal, and a bit of our Gig Now program that we run at EY. So what's after? What's next? I think that's a question that we would all want to explore today. I think present and future with COVID-19. Um, COVID, unlike any of the recent crises that we have seen I think within this group of people who are attending today, is not an economic crisis alone. It's an economic and a health crisis, and all at once, right? Um, we've seen 2008, we've seen 2000, we've seen 1991, we've seen probably even 1975 emergency. I mean, at least our parents would have, and everyone has gone through some bit of crisis themselves, but no one would have ever imagined a crisis of this scale, this magnitude. And when I say that, it's at a scale which is global in nature. What has that led into? I think it led into a lot of changing dynamics around the way we did our businesses, the way we did our, I mean, the way we consume stuff and products and services. And I think lockdown has further created extreme amount of challenge for a lot of industries. um, let's talk about aviation, hospitality, manufacturing. All of them have taken a beating around because of the lockdown, which has resulted into unemployment across the world. And this number probably is just going to continue growing for various reasons. And 25 million plus jobs could have already been lost as a result of COVID-19. And this is a number and a study by International Labor Organization. So how has it impacted us? How has it impacted us as employers and employees? In terms of businesses, a lot of businesses saw temporary business closure, one because of lockdown, and two because of lower to negligible demands. Two, we also lost customers due to slowdown. And I think one of the things, classic examples is the fact that aviation or Indian Railways, or for that matter, including your app-based solutions, never saw customers for the last 80, 90 days, because I mean, they couldn't just deliver anything at this point of time except anything that was quote unquote essentials. There was high demand and lack of supply in certain cases, which example being consumables and consumer goods, and vegetables and essential goods for that matter. But on the other hand, there were also low demand and a high supply. I think especially in cases where the shops were closed, they all are sitting with piles of inventories, and there was no one to buy any of that in the last 80, 90 days. And this has had a significant impact on a lot of organizations, and not all of them are being able to manage remote operations. Think about any of the public sector units. Banks probably found it very difficult in the last 100 days to be able to operate operate 100% remotely, because a lot of work that they used to do required them to be physically present in banks. So there was always a challenge for them to be operating out of homes. Consumption has fallen drastically, and I think it's a no-brainer that we are consuming stuff which is only essential today and not really spending on discretionary goods. The cash flow as a result has been lower in the last 90 days because we don't have demands. I mean, I think as an industry, if you look at any of the organization, like for example, aviation again, they never had imagined for complete shutdown for the last 90 days, where there would be no flights, which meant that they were sitting on operational expenses, and they just didn't have enough money to be able to pay for the expenses that they were incurring because of low cash flow. Manufacturing has seen a huge meltdown because of the lockdown, and because again it will continue to have an impact due to lower demands. Now, all of this means that you have inventories across. You have purchased stuff, you have purchase orders, you have taken loans from the banks and are unable to pay that, which further would increase the stress on the debts. And I think great thing that the government of India did was to create relief packages for approximately all the sectors worth 20 lakh crores, which is, I think, gonna come back into the economy in some form and start creating the buzz on how we would come back into the next normal. And I think all of this, if we were to think through, would have an impact on all of us as employees and job seekers. So we saw temporary hiring freeze across all the organizations. We almost a lot of organizations where they could started work from home. The policies changed around that. They will be they restructure the compensation in certain industries to ensure that they remain afloat. Otherwise, it could have led to business closures because they just couldn't afford to pay salaries because they were not earning any money. And I think it will result into a lot more than what I've just listed here in terms of how we're going to take some time to relook at what is our priority, and are we really focusing on essentials at this point of time. So I think with that being said, we always saw technology really around us in terms of how we're working. So the question that we always had was, will technology replace skilled labor or redefine it? Now, I remember the time, I think my parents were, both were working, and my mom was in railways and my dad was in an automobile company. And I remember days when they used to get huge ledgers of work home to continue working from home, which is, yeah, I mean, work from home was there then too. There was sudden phase, I think, in late 80s, early 90s, where they said a lot of work that they are doing is now getting computerized, and they were given a choice to learn it. People who were younger would ended up learning it pretty quickly, but they were facing challenges in terms of learning computers. So I think and I think we saw that in fair bit in our careers, and my career too. I think how we moved from desktops to laptops, and from now laptops to a lot more app-based solutions. And I think every time there is a revolution of this sort, we keep asking ourselves, is this gonna replace us as individuals, or is this gonna make it easier for us to be working? And I think I will just give you a quick backdrop to that in terms of how we have evolved as an industry thus far. We started industrialization pretty much in 1784, I think, which is when mechanization started, steam power started, weaving looms were introduced. The 2.0 version was mass production, assembly line, electrical energy. So cars were started to being manufactured at that time, and we saw a lot of bulk. There's a power cut. The power should come back in a bit, but I hope you all can hear me even now. Sonia, I guess you can.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So as I was talking about power, there was a pocket. And in the 3.0 version, I think we also saw automation, computers, and electronics in the last by 1960s and 69s and 70s. We leapfrogged into the present day as of now, where we have seen phenomenal growth in the computerization journey, where we now have cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, how things are getting done pretty well. And as we were thinking about growing even more substantially, I think we were hit with COVID. Now, what does that mean for all of us? I think something that we will discuss in just a brief. So, talking about importance of what we need to have, is it the right skill set or the right mindset? Right. I think talking about computerization, or talking about our adaptability to the entire scenario, is that only about getting to getting the right skill set, or is it also about the mindset? Is something that we should ask ourselves. Again, going back into the conversation that I just had about my parents, it was an important skill for them to all learn, but it was only people who adapted to it, having the right mindset to be able to learn the skill, who then catapulted their career into something phenomenal for themselves. And I think that is what is extremely important as we look at our own careers today, on how are we adapting to the new normal or the next normal. There's a bit of a story here that I would like to share, and how a bit of how our careers have evolved. Now, when I talk about my grandfather, or my grandparents for that matter, they were all. My grandfather was more like an entrepreneur, and he had his own kirana store where he would sell the goods, and he would be always traveling across India, and in search of goods, and he would procure goods, get them all delivered to a remote town in Kerala, and that was his style of that was his job, or that was his work. It was a bit more flexible, if I were to say so. But my parents, when they started their careers, there was a lot of government initiatives. There were a lot of private firms that were available. And I'm talking about 55, 60s, 60s, 70s, in terms of years. So in 1970s, we saw a lot of people really applying for government jobs, for that matter, and also some bit in private jobs. But the way they would work, and the kind of work that they used to do, were need based, which offered very little flexibility, and they continue to work the way they did in the office premises. So this meant people had to move from one city to another. There were cities that were formed at that point of time. Mumbai or Delhi or Chennai grew. The fact that there was a lot of labor migration from one city to another kept happening a lot, because it was all kind of jobs that required you to be physically present in a particular city. So my dad migrated from Kerala to Mumbai, and I think that's how he started his career. I think there was very little external factors impacting geographically countries like ours until 1991, when we opened up our doors to globalization. So I think that was a moment when we suddenly started seeing a lot of organizations wanting to come and set up their multinationals in India. And I think that led to a lot of organizations and public sector units and government organizations really asking themselves, what is it that do we need to do? Are we going to be able to sustain this period or not? There were voluntary retirement schemes that were introduced then, and a lot of people left government jobs and public sector jobs to join private organizations. Not everybody could find roles for themselves at that point of time, and then they picked up freelancing jobs. So they would probably become an LIC agent, which is an insurance agent, or they would probably become some kind of maybe a freelance writer or a photographer or an event manager and so on. As we evolved, I think the world also saw Y2K. I think it was in a span of almost about 8-9 years, and then there was sudden growth across all the ITES. And when Y2K happened and the bubble bursted, there were sudden job losses across. And I think this was a result of a lot of people really betting too much high on what the internet at that point of time was going to bring. But again, it led to rise of contract jobs and gig jobs at that point of time. And the reason for that to happen was businesses, industries, organizations couldn't really bet on anything beyond 6 months to 18 months to 24 months at that point of time. And the only way that they could engage with employees were through contracting. And I think we saw a similar trend again in 2008 when we saw the real estate crisis or so-called financial crisis, the recession that we all know of, where the gigs and contract jobs came back again in higher numbers. 2020 is no different. I think COVID and the after effect of COVID is proving that there is a lot of job losses that is happening, which we already saw in the earlier slides. But I think it will continue to result into a lot of remote work and gigs. And this time around, it's remote because I think we have, as a global industry, evolved on two big events that happened in the last 10 years. One, internet broadband that became more accessible across the world at much more economical price point. And us as a country, I think we saw 2G, 3G, and 4G happening in the last 3 to 5 years or 8 years. And I think that gave huge boost to Internet of Things, app developments, virtual working, which was a lot more accessible now. And I think in the last 90 days, we have just seen the potential that we have today in working from home. And I think it's just going to give further boost to a lot of remote working going forward. And I think that's exactly what a lot of people would want to, given the fact that they would love a work-life balance in their careers, and they would prefer doing multiple gigs at a time and all of that. So is that easy for us to suddenly shift from one kind of mindset to another? I think the question that we need to ask is, do we have the right perspective to achieve the bold ambition that we all have? And if we have one, how are we trying to work through it? A bit on collaborative economy, and I think we've all seen this happen a lot in the last 10 years. So gig economy is something that we've all heard. It was predominantly meant for blue collar jobs where you would have people coming in together in some form, working for some organizations, and then probably get the work done for a short-term period. So it could be on a contract, it could be on a short-term engagement. Sharing economy was, you would have all heard Airbnb as an example, where they would come and probably rent out their assets and earn money out of it. Platform economy is very similar to all that you see in your Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Zomato, and all of that. Crowd economy is again a very dynamic ecosystem where it's used typically to crowdsource an idea or crowdsource the work getting done. So all your I mean, the platform apart, the best example that I can give you on this is Lijjat Papad, if you all know. I think it's exactly built on that premise. How do we bring that, or Amul for that matter, is also was built in the 80s and 90s on that premise on how people could come together to achieve a mutually beneficial goal. What does this give rise to? It gives rise to freelancers, it gives rise to gig workers, solopreneurs, it makes entrepreneurs out of you, as we've seen happening a lot more in the last 5 to 8 years, or even beyond, I would say. So why is it happening? I mean, I think it's important for us to know, why is gig economy shaping up so well in India? I think more and more people are opting out of the daily grind and choosing to be fluid. I think it's a no-brainer. Uh, uh, the travel times between your office and home is due to the traffic is getting insane. So organizations had already started a couple of days work from home, and I think in the last 90 days, I think we've seen the impact of all of us, almost at least with an EY working from home, help us so much that we now have complete control on how we would want to work and yet have a great work-life balance. The Startup India initiative that the government of India launched in 2015-16 has given rise to startups. I think the venture capitalist fundings have just spurred the growth in the entire ecosystem. And I think be it SoftBank and be it similar angel investors have invested a lot of money to grow the startups in India. And I think that has given rise to employment even beyond your public sector, private sector. And I think that is going to continue. I think they've all seen a bit of a roadblock now, but I think once things ease out a bit, I think there will be a lot more rigor in this entire startup initiative. Freelancing platforms have grown significantly in the last 8 to 10 years, and I think Internet of Things is one of the reasons for that to happen. Automation has continued to have a significant impact on jobs, and by which people are probably losing their full-time jobs, and I think they end up going and taking freelancing jobs, which then contributes to the gig economy. Current COVID pandemic has both positives and the negatives to it, but the positives being it's beneficial for companies to look at how do they use gig economy to enhance the cash flow and reduce or control the cost, I would say, and probably also look at um, leveraging this as a lever for people to come and join us and probably have no impact on their business operations. For individuals, remote working is something that they all have right now, probably less financial instability and probably not affected by loss of jobs, because you're almost on gigs one after the other, if you were to say so. And I think a lot of great examples that we have seen ourselves. So who is a gig worker? I think it's for all of us to think about freelancers, niche skill professionals, women who want to engage with us on a short-term, flexible projects, independent professionals, temporary contract workers, independent contract workers or consultants, interns who want to join us on a flexi time internships, people with disabilities or neurodiverse talent. All of this who never could find a job or an opportunity in the mainstream job market could become a gig worker and find opportunities to do multiple short-term gigs. And I think this is going to be the new normal or the next normal. And I'll speak a little bit more on why it's getting important for organizations as well. Why is it beneficial for you as a gig worker? So it gives you autonomy. You can develop a new skill set. You control the workload. You control the quality of work. You have control on the income, and you have a better work-life balance. It gives you the empowerment that you need. You probably are able to look at the online markets and probably look at various ways to market yourself and get the work, or win the work, I would say. You have the financial stability. You can track your income. You define your rate card, and you also define your own schedules of work, and you have complete control on defining a budget for yourself. You have the work-life balance, as I spoke about, because you now also have time that you can set aside for work, and probably a space that you would want to designate as a workspace typically, and not really look at going to a specific organizational office to go and work. So is it easy for employees to transition into becoming a gig worker? A lot of people have unfortunately gotten impacted because of the current scenario. And as we speak about transitioning into a from a full-time role to a gig work, is it easy? It's all about mindset, right? I mean, we spoke about the importance of mindset and how it ensures that you are is it easy for you or not. Most importantly, first understand what is involved in a gig. Ensure that you manage your time to work from home and remotely. And I think it's extremely important to have the right set of discipline as you go forward. Plan your technology and workspace. I mean, it's important that you have a laptop with a good internet connection. You need to have a secluded space within your home, wherever you're working from, so that you don't get disturbed while you're working. Gig jobs, unlike a full-time job, doesn't guarantee you income on a monthly basis. So you got to start getting used to peaks and valleys in your income as well, and probably work around that to be able to fund for your EMIs, because your EMIs are going to be probably remaining the same, and you may want to think about how it can be managed better. Um, all the individuals who are working in an organization today have health insurance, but it's always important for you to think about getting an insurance for yourselves, even otherwise outside the organizational framework, because when you would want to transition from a full-time to gig work by choice or by voluntarily, this is one thing extremely important in current times, especially as we think about hospitalization or any other health incidents. um, and so insurance is probably almost a non-negotiable. Prioritize your work accordingly. I think it's important for you to think about how you would want to prioritize your day, which clients are you going to prioritize your work for, and nothing of this or a success within the gig world is going to be possible without connections with influential people who can make introductions and referrals for you. So I'll talk more about networking in the next few slides as we move. So how can the experience of change unlock the extraordinary? We all want a lot of people to find themselves doing extraordinary things. And I think it's important that we are all optimists in times like these. And I think this change that we are seeing right now in the last 100 days is going to definitely unlock an extraordinary within each one of us. And how do we work through that is something that we need to explore further. So ask yourself, be selective and focused on the opportunities that you have, but ask yourself questions like, what are your options, right? What jobs are available? What type of jobs can you apply for? Where else can you add value? What can you do differently versus someone else who is doing the same job? Where can you offer your service? I think pre-COVID world, you could have said that I stay in Gurgaon, so I can offer this service only in Gurgaon. Today, I think with everything being digital, you can absolutely be working for any of the client cross-border too. Forget India alone. So are you ready to take that leapfrog in terms of not just setting up your business to cater to the clients within a particular country or a geography, but even taking up clientele across the border as well? And how are you going to do that is something that you may want to ask yourself. What are different job roles you're equipped to handle other than what you can do? And if you're not equipped to handle other roles, then I think it's important for you to think about what reskilling you need to do, what upskilling that you need to do. Again, coming back to the networking, who should you connect with? I think it's most important question that we all need to ask ourselves. So how do we make an effective comeback? I think if you're one of those who are looking for a new role, or if you're one of those who recently lost his or her job and want to make a comeback now as a gig worker, 3 R's that I would want to share: reimagine, reinvent, and reinforce. Right? Set the right expectations. think creatively, reposition yourself in the market. I think it's important that you reinvent or redesign your career proposition. And once you're done with those, strengthen the entire value proposition. Reinforcement is absolutely important because you don't know when things are gonna become more easier. And I think it's important to not give up and lose hope. So augment yourself into the new reality and the next normal through these 3 R's. How do you then establish yourself as a successful freelancer? Nothing starts without goals, right? As simple as, if you want to go somewhere, you got to have a ticket, or be it a flight, be it train, be it or petrol or fuel in the car to be able to start your journey, right? Goals are exactly that. I think it's important for you to know where you're going and what are you going to do there. So set measurable goals. It should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Importance of personal branding. We'll talk a little bit more on that in the next few slides. Start figuring out your buyer personas. Who are you selling it to, and who's going to buy the services that you're offering? Create and maintain an online presence. Extremely important in times like these when everything is so digital. Do you have a strong LinkedIn profile? Do you have a strong Facebook profile? Do you have a strong Instagram profile? And when I say strong, it meant that, are you saying the right things that you need to be saying? Are you telling people who you are through the Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook profiles? A lot of times people just do not take enough initiatives to update their profiles online, and I think it's all the more important today. Network. A lot of people ask me, I'm shy, I'm introvert, I can't network with people. I'll ask them, how do you have a LinkedIn profile? They say yes, but it's almost dormant. I don't really do much in that, but I want a job change. Well, if people don't know who you are, if people don't know how much, what kind of value proposition that you have, then probably they would not even offer any opportunity in the current digital era. So extremely important for us to think through this. A bit of importance of craftsmanship and being skilled. Just a second. So we all saw craftsmanship being extremely important in the past, right? I remember days when my parents used to get clay-based stuff at home. We used to make a lot of craft at home with, like, be it a boat with made of paper, or be it drawing of some sort, or be it handloom, articraft, and all of that. All of that suddenly started, I think, disappearing because of a lot of automation. So the Kanjivaram saris that probably my mom wore for her wedding is very different than the Kanjivaram sari that my wife wore when we got married. And I think there was a stark difference between what was made with hand versus what was made with machine. And I think automation was a great boon because it gave us scale. It gave us the possibility to do a lot more and export a lot more beyond geographies. But it also diluted the identity of craft. We now have 3D printing, which is unique, and I think it is bringing back the craftsmanship. But the reason why I'm saying all of this is, in the gig world, or in the new normal or the next normal, you will be competing with 10 other people who would be doing the same kind of work that you do. How are you going to craft your solutions to the new requirements that the clients have, the way the client wants, and what is your unique selling proposition? I think craft will come extremely handy in such cases. Can you craft a new solution for the problem that people have? I think that's a question that you may want to ask yourself. Being skilled. I think we always, whenever you interact with anyone who has, and even including in my own bio that you just read out, Sonia and Jitin, we always give a lot of respect to number of years of experience. We say, I have 25 years of experience or 30 years of experience. But the world today requires us to speak the language of, what skills do you have to solve the problems that I have in the business world? Do you have the right skills to solve the complex problems that I have? And I think the entire focus today shifts on how and what skills are you going to put onto the table to be able to get the work done. So what are the future skills when the future is now? So complex problem solving. Is the problem that we are all going through an easy one? Absolutely not. I think it's a complex one, and I think we need to find a way to solve it with utmost care, and at the same time ensuring that people are able to live normally as much as possible. Yet our businesses run the way they should be running, and I think you got to put extreme amount of focus on complex problem solving. We got to have social skills. We can't afford to stay in isolation, though we are socially distant, because it's important that while we are physically apart, we need to be able to talk to people, be visible to them through video, be able to understand what they're going through, and talk to more people to understand the problems that they're going through, to develop huge amount of empathy that is required to be able to solve the problems. And at the end of the day, if there is one skill that any individual should develop, is the skill of empathy, because that's the kind of, or that's the magnitude of challenges that we are all going through. Project management skills, and I think it's important that we need to understand how to solve for a particular situation in the current scheme of things. Are we doing it the right way? Or do we have all the right stakeholder support? Are we saying the right things? Which means importance of communication, importance of stakeholder management, importance of budget management, importance of resource management. And I think all of that is wonderfully embedded into the entire project management skills. System skills. Can you use a desktop? My son, who's starting his school in grade 4 today, I never would have imagined a classroom being digitally done. All of a sudden, his classes are getting done virtually for 8 hours, which he's not used to. I mean, he can't sit. I mean, kids at that age can't sit for forget hours, can't sit in a particular place for minutes. How can they reimagine themselves to be studying in the new normal? I think system skills, adaptability to the new system skills is extremely important. Technical skills, I spoke about that a bit. Cognitive abilities, right? Are we developing the right emotional quotient? Are we developing the right ability to have the empathy towards the challenges that the world is facing today? Are we able to give them the right support emotionally when people are going through such high distress? Content skills, are we speaking the right things in the right manner? I mean, I can in current times be very insensitive to what I post on my Facebook account or a LinkedIn account, or any of the platforms or WhatsApp, and probably find myself in the wrong place. Am I developing the right set of skills to be able to say the right things the right way? Physical skills, no brainer. I think we are all going to be victims of this working from home if we don't plan it well, because we will all, and I think most of us sitting at the home and working for almost 90 days now have gained weight. And I don't think we should probably be feeling any happy about that. So how do we ensure that we are investing in our physical well-being, our ability to do everything a lot more differently today is at most important. Are we burning out too fast, too soon? Is something, are the areas of focus. And leadership, I think every crisis has brought in new leaders, and I think this crisis will be no different. And I think we will have a lot more better global leaders coming out of this one too. And last but not the least, are you listening to people? Are you gonna give them ear, or are you just listening to say something? Because at the end of the day, the world has too much of noise already. And I think, are we taking a moment to pause and ask this person, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Is there something that I can do for you? Can I do something different for you? And let this person speak his or her mind out. And I think that's all going to be extremely important skills for all of us to have in the future, which is now actually. I spoke about personal branding as well. And why is it important in the current scheme of things is, when you imagine yourself as a gig worker, I'm going to give your work not on the basis of your number of years of experience or the organizations you worked for. I would give credit to your brand as an individual, right? And extremely important for people to think about what we reflect as an individual to the outside world. Are we authentic, right? Do we have any uniqueness that we are bringing onto the table for people to think that, oh, this guy is different than the other guy who I spoke to, right? What expertise am I gonna share to the world, which is very unique to me? Do I have the right visibility in the industry, in the market, in the way things are getting done? What's the image that people have built about me? How am I communicating? Am I communicating the right things the right way? What is my credibility? I think it's extremely important, and all of this will build an extremely strong personal brand for you. What is your social media presence, and why is it so important in building your personal brand? I think we'll talk a little bit of that as well. How do you build a credibility? So imagine you you're getting an order from, or putting an order for Swiggy, and this person picks up the order and delivers it to you. And while delivering, he's telling you, "Sir, madam, if you can just give me a 5-star rating and give me a good feedback." Why is that important? I think the way things are moving today is this is a new ways of performance management. I'm seeking instant feedback for the work that I did, and I need that because the world needs to know what are clients talking about me, how am I being seen in the market, right? And why is it that important? It's because that's going to build my personal brand as well. If your Ola or an Uber driver today is getting assigned to you, you go and look at what this person's rating is. Is he a 4.75 or a 4.95 on 5, or is he a 2 rater? And I think your credibility as a ride taker is also important, and that's how the machine learning algorithm builds the best of the drivers to be assigned to you. And I think similarly, it's important for all of us to start thinking in these lines. And the ways that you build the credibility for yourself is on the basis of ethics. Are you doing the things in the right manner? Now, with all of us working from home, are we being ethical in the way we are working from home? Are we giving the organization the right support by working from home? As a gig worker, you will be on your own. Are you committing the right thing, and are you delivering it on the right manner without having compromised on anything? And I think ethics is extremely important factor that will help you build your credibility. Are you trustworthy? Can someone assign you work and forget about it, and you'll get the work done in the same manner, or per the requirements, and deliver it on time? That will build your trustworthiness as well. Are you competent in terms of who you are as an individual compared to the others in the market? Are you genuine? Are you consistent? Are you sincere at the end of the day? Are you respectful of the client, of who they are, what they do, and respectful of anyone who works with you? Are you accountable, and are you honest? I think these are some of the things that you may want to start thinking, because all of this is extremely important for you to um, build your credibility, because that's what is going to be required in the future. So I spoke about online presence, and I think whenever we speak to the student community or people even looking for jobs in general, they say, can you take a look at my CV and tell me if I'll get this job? Now, I'll be honest, I think it's extremely important for all of us to think through that. Yes, the times are challenging for everybody. Are we approaching an opportunity the right way, right? We can't be one person when we are reaching out to people on LinkedIn or Facebook for jobs, and be someone else on the other platforms, right? Because all the organizations today look at who you are as an individual. They screen profiles looking at your LinkedIn profiles and other digital profiles that you have. They look at what what your online personal or professional persona is. 34% want to see the other people posting about candidates. So, for example, have you got recommendations from people? Have you got recommendations from your professors that you have studying with? 24% check social media and other elements to before hiring someone, right? Now, I have in the last 90 days seen a lot of people approach me to say, I'm looking for job. I see no harm in that. Absolutely important for you to look at doing that. But when you go and check their LinkedIn profile, there would be hardly anything for me to make out who is this person as an individual. I can't really make out whether this person is talking about the genuine experience or not. If they are students, extremely important for them to think about what can they put in terms of their experience on through internships. What are people talking about the internship experience that they had with organizations? What are some of the skills that he has acquired through the internships that they have done? And it's always important for you to be polite when you're reaching out to anyone in the industry, and reach out in the right manner to say, you are so and so. I hope everything is okay. This is something that I'm more than happy to explore. This is a job I found. I would wish to apply. If there is something that I can do different, let me know, and leave it at that. And I think it's extremely important for us to be handling those communications with a lot more sensitivity. Are we are we allowing ourselves to be presented in the right manner? I think that's important for you to really ask yourself. And all of this is going to replace the what lies in your CV. And I think your digital profiles are going to be much more important. So my only humble request to each one of you is to ensure that you say the right things, and build a strong digital profile for yourselves in times like these, because that's going to be my first screening of who you are as an individual. Um, Solopreneurship, I think we spoke about this, and why is it here to stay? I think we've seen in the current scheme of things where we are. I think a lot of rise on effect of Web 2.0 services, or the Internet of Things, and um, in the current scheme of things with COVID, it's just going to continue rising to have more freelancers, more thought leaders, more agents, the makers who are going to be there around, and I think it's going to continue growing as a community. So, what should you have as a freelancer or a gig worker or a solopreneur when you're starting your new gig? Do you have the right business vision? Do you have the right strategy? I mean, it's important, as I said, goals are extremely important for you to have. No business or no gig will be successful if you don't have the right vision or the strategy for doing this role well. Do you know how long are you going to continue doing this gig? Are you going to do it for 6 months, or going to do it for 18 months, forever? You got to have a forecast for that. I think without that, you'll not be able to survive through this, because you can't pick up one gig and then also pick another while you're working with an employer in any manner. Um, Importantly, have a pitch, have a good portfolio of who you are, what you do, what services are you offering, where are you offering those services, digitally, online, offline. Create a good PowerPoint or whatever. I mean, I'll leave the media to you, but do that for yourself. Create a 30-second elevator pitch where you could use that to create a short WhatsApp video to talk about who you are as an individual. Put that up on your social media platform so that people know who you are even before they probably want to talk to you, and gather reviews, testimonials from all your previous projects that you've worked on. Some of the, I mean, this can go on, but just some of the most important things. Now, most important, it's challenging times. It's not easy to stay motivated. You may be a student, you may be someone who is working through these challenging times. Most importantly, focus on your physical well-being or personal well-being. Ensure that you do not really fall prey to all the negativity that already exists in times like these. Set yourself goals for the next 3 to 6 months or 9 months. Ask yourself, what are you going to do 3 months from now? What are you going to do 6 months from now? What are you going to do 9 months from now? Uh, Take a piece of paper, write down those things, because as the world is uncertain, it's only you who can be certain about what you are going to do for the next 3 to 6 to 9 months. Find the next big idea, right? You may think that, okay, what do I do? Like, in case I lose my job, what am I going to do? or in case I'm a student, I'm wanting to pick up a role somewhere, but I'm not finding the right opportunities because no one is hiring today. What should I be doing? Put down all the ideas on your list, um, write it one after the other, write down pros and cons of being in that business, work through that. I think extremely important for you to think through how you are going to find your next big idea. You'll find that you may be greatly skilled on doing something, you may not be greatly skilled on doing something else. Find ways to upskill. A lot of online learning platforms are offering a lot of courses in the in the last 60 90 days, or even in the next 60 90 days, free of cost, or reduced pricing. And I think that's going to be here around. You should make the best use of this opportunity to continue to find a way to upskill. You had your guitar, you had your digital camera, you had your painting, you had you loved singing. Bring all that back. It's important for you to pursue your hobby, and if possible, look for ways to monetize it. I think it's extremely important. A lot of people, a lot of friends of mine have found ways to get the pa- passion back into their lives, and they're making great things out of it. They're even monetizing that. Stay away from distractions. Do not subscribe to news. It's important for you to know what's happening around the world, but not glued to it in terms of what's happening. Stay away from negativity around from social media as well. Spread positivity. Extremely important for you to do. If you're a student, try online group study sessions. It's good to stay socially connected, even digitally, and schedule virtual get-togethers with friends. I've done almost 12 to 13 virtual reunions in the last 90 days with all the students that I've studied with, all my colleagues of the organizations that I've worked with. And I think that really gives you a pleasant feeling to be connected again with people who you worked with or studied with. A bit on Gig Now. So we in EY have a flagship program called Gig Now, where we at any point of time want people to come and join us on contracting work, and they could come to us and join for a 3 month assignment or a 6 month assignment, and absolutely find the best career proposition for themselves while they are with us. And I think I have quite a few of my team members also dialed into this call today who are gigs themselves. My entire team is gig, and I think they probably can vouch for the opportunities that they have found in EY, where they have been able to work through this entire period almost virtually, and enjoyed this experience. Because at the end of the day, we ensure that we don't differentiate anyone just on the basis of the fact that they are with us for a short time. At EY, we believe exceptional EY experience is for lifetime. You may want to leave EY, but EY will not leave you. And I think we hold that true even for our gig professionals. So if you're keen, interested, and Sonal, I'm going to require your help to spread the word to the broader student community as well, to sign up on gignow.com for finding exciting career opportunities within Gig Now, and we'll be more than happy to discuss any role that may be open for some of these short-term contracts. Why is it different than any other typical contracting? You get to create your identity that you want. You get to use productive. Whatever time that you have, you could use it productively. You get the income. I think we pay people at par with who we pay even for what we pay even for the full timers. We give them access to insurance and other social security benefits. The access to the client work is pretty much seamless, like that of a full-time employee. You get an encore career, and I think you can also use this opportunity to give back to the society by being working with us, and continuing to add value and knowledge and expertise, which will just help you as an individual working with us on Gig Now. That's pretty much that I had for today. I hope and I trust this was helpful. I'll be more than happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Gopal.
Sure.
I just had a few observations. We can take questions, but I didn't realize how much introspection is required when you become. It's almost like you're an entrepreneur. I before this presentation, I would have had no idea. You, in my mind, you sign up and you just take short-term contracts. But what you are saying is that there's such a bigger picture involved. Like I can see so many of your slides is like, look at what you want to do, introspect, look at the qualities that are required to do these short-term contracts. It's almost like entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I keep saying this to everyone I speak to. We have always considered ourselves as resources for the organization, right? And I think we have relied on the importance of organization trying to create our careers. But I think, and this is something that I really love about EY as well. Like we also say exceptional EY experience is for you to build, right? And when we say that, it almost brings in that entire element of entrepreneurship into the entire conversation. Consider yourself as a product for a moment, right? You may always want to think yourself as whatever you do is a service, but you are a product. If you're a product, you're going to take accountability of who you are as an individual. Extremely important as we continue to evolve through as an industry to look for roles beyond in the market, and I think it's not only going to be jobs that will be available, it's going to be gigs that will be available too. So if you don't really create your personal brand, if you don't really create the eminence for yourself in the market, uh, and you can't do that if you don't consider yourself as a product and resonate the brand elements, then I think it's just not going to work the way you would have really wanted to work, right? Every startup today struggles to create a brand for themselves, probably without even realizing that they're missing out on that entire element of considering themselves as a product of who you are, what you're here for, what do you do, and who are who are going to take your services, and why is it important for you to sell it the right way.
Absolutely.
Sonal, do you have any, Sonia, sorry, do you have any questions that you can see? I can't see any questions in here.
Not
I'll be
in
more than
the,
happy to answer any live or written questions that you may have.
yeah.
Okay, see one.
There you go.
If gigs and freelancing shall be major working styles, how in big picture do we see major hiring models? How does identify their position, example, executive or manager or vice president, on the basis of skills? Would freelancing be limited to junior positions? Absolutely not. And I think, uh, in fact, one of the most important skills that we all need to build in ourselves is, I think, move away from the element of titles and positions. I think as a gig worker, you're an entrepreneur yourself. So you may want to call yourself as a CEO if that really helps you. But I think more importantly, what I'm saying is, as the models evolve, we don't differentiate between gig workers ourselves, right? I mean, you may have, like we have in our own organization, people with almost about 3 decades of experience on gigs, and we also have people with almost no experience. They're all called in as gig workers and contractors. The beauty of that is we don't differentiate your performance based on the fact that you're a gig worker. I think we really see that it's important for you to bring in your value as whoever you are. So you may be an vice president in your prior birth in a different organization, may want to come back to working with us on a gig. You get the same respect and the treatment for the skills that you bring onto the table. So I think in the longer run, you will start seeing hybrid teams with people with who will be full timers, who will have little experience, who will have decades of experience, and it will be a phenomenal camaraderie that you will see blooming within any of the teams, that will give rise to a lot more productive outcomes for the challenges that we are seeing today. I think we need the problems that we have today. I think we need people with 30 years of experience, and we need people with 2 years of experience too. So I think that is only possible when you have a hybrid model. And I think that's what will continue to evolve. Can you please elaborate on brand building? I'm not sure what more elaboration I could do. I think I spoke about at length into the. I mean, if you have a specific question, feel free to ask Radhika. I'll be more than happy. Thank you, Sheikh. Appreciate the feedback. Any other questions that we have? I think just one.
I have some here,
Sure,
Gopal, from some
sure.
students. So one student's written, how can freshers get into the role of freelancing without so much experience in the technical fields?
So it's important for them to really identify what are the kind of roles that are evolving in the industry today, right? I mean, it's always important that even so. For example, like let's say I'm an MBA HR, and I need I'm being brought into an organization as an intern to begin with, and probably I pick up a full-time role, but the skills that I need to be able to perform my role probably are a lot more technical in nature. So with the onset of so much of uh, upskilling programs that we have in the market today, pick up the right skill. So you may want to specialize into total rewards. You may want to specialize into recruitment. You may want to specialize into data analytics. You may want to specialize into compensation, and find the right skill, and go for upskilling opportunities. And then you may want to consider freelancing in that field, and probably do that for one gig after the other. And I think that's where you build in your proficiency in that domain. And I think that's possibly the only way to grow. But of course, be open, and I think not refuse gig opportunities as they come, because it's all gonna be helping you to build your gig brand. And I think any number of years of experience in that is just going to be phenomenal as you look at that in the longer run. So if we start as solopreneur in EY, do we have opportunities to build a team in the longer run to start a startup? It purely depends on the kind of roles that you're going to get and you're going to pick. And I think within EY, based on I think what your background is, you may be an individual contributor, or you may be a team manager based on the background and the skills that you have. And I think as you continue to gain a lot more experience, not just with EY but even otherwise, you may very well be on your path to become an entrepreneur and start on your own. But all boils down to the skills that you gather in the next 3 6 months to 1 year to 18 months, and how proficient you are with those skills. Ask yourself, why do you want to be in this business? Who are you going to sell the services to? Why should someone buy only from you and not from someone else in the competitive world? And I think as you answer these questions, you will have your answer on, is this the right path for you to start up? What skills do you think students studying in economics finance should work on so that they can start work as freelancers? What services, gigs would organizations be looking for in the next few years? So it's an extremely dynamic world that we are moving towards. And I think what holds relevance today may not hold relevance in the next 6 months. And I think I would give you an example of Kodak or Nokia here. They were all stalwarts in the industry. They were doing phenomenally well for themselves for several years. Like my first mobile that when I bought was a Nokia mobile. I continued with Nokia for almost 8 years before I switched to something else. And I think they ruled the mobile industry or the market for several years to go. And all of a sudden, iPhone came in, Samsung came in, and the industry landscape completely changed. And do we have Nokia phones anymore? Probably not. And I think even as consumers of products today, we keep expecting whatever phone we have. Uh, uh, yeah, it's been 2 months that I haven't received an upgrade to my OS. I need an upgrade every 2 months. Same holds good for all of us as individuals as well. What is relevant for today may not be of relevance 3 years down the line. So I would say pick up something that is relevant for the next 6 months to a year, because that's the predictability that I can build today. I mean, I can't really look for beyond, because I don't still know what are the factors that are going to impact our businesses in the next 6 months, next 12 months. So now with the specific question on economics and finance, plenty of opportunities, right? Uh, the problem that we have is an economic crisis in front of us. Does anyone have any answer to the question? So when the government of India said we will announce a package of 20 lakh crores, um, the views were divided. People said 20 lakh crores is the best amount that we could do. It's 10% of our GDP, and we probably have the right direction, great governance, etc., etc., etc. There were certain other people who said, how did we even come up with this 20 lakh crores, and how are we even saying that this is sufficient? So as an economist or an economic student, you got to really drill down deeper into finding out whether that number is the right number. And if you may want to put down reasons why it's the right number, you may want to put down the reasons why it's not the right number. I think data modeling is an extremely important skill you may want to add on to the economics and the finance profile for you to start thinking about how is this 20 lakh crore going to help impact people at bottom of pyramid, middle of pyramid, and exclusive class of people that we all would be working with, the business owners and the businessmen. Nobody is different today. Like, I think the challenges that we are having as an individual is probably same at someone who is a migrant laborer, and the same probably at the CEO level of any organization willing to run today. I think everyone is impacted. So and it's all economics of cash management that we are all seeing. And I think there will be huge potential for all of you to think about where you could start implementing the learnings that you have had in the next few months, and just read enough and more, do more research on these topics. It will help you. Do gig workers get fixed salaries? Absolutely no. And we'll talk more about that. Or performance based salaries. Do gig workers have the power to see other salaries to get an idea of how much to expect? Is EY an agent that connects gig workers with employers? How does it work exactly? Um, no, gig work. So EVA is not an agent. We would consume everyone who's joining us on gig now ourselves. Though I think there may be aggregators in the market. To name a few: Topcoder, Upwork, Freelance.com, who would work on that premise of being an agent who, I mean, I would rather say the term as aggregator, who would aggregate talent pretty much on similar basis like an Uber. So Uberization of talent is what I think we would want to call that. So do gig workers get fixed salaries? No, I think it's on the basis of the scope of an engagement that you have agreed with the organization. Now, I wouldn't want to say a straight no. It means that if the role demands you to be working with us for 6 months, and then you probably get fixed salary. But if your role demands to complete a project for 6 months, then it's going to be an outcome based compensation that you will be getting. And I think it's going to differ based on what the engagement models are. Any idea of how much to expect? I think pricing will be a determinant of who you are, what you do, what services you can offer to begin with. And I think there are a lot of websites that can give you a fair understanding of what you can quote. And I think it's going to be an interesting price point war in the next few years, because I think it will then be a factor of demand and supply that you may want to really factor yourself into. So I think that would be my response to the question. What opportunities does EY offer in analytics consulting field? I think I would say feel free to look at first register on Gig now. Find I mean you will get insights into what roles we have, and of course keep looking for EY careers webpage for different roles that are available for people on the analytics field. I think it's the most hot domain to be in at this point of time, given where we are within the current times. Will Gig now expand opportunities to other organizations or restrict it only to EY? I think it's gonna be for now only EY, but I think we will see how that progresses in the future. I think a lot of others are also doing something similar like Gig now for themselves as well. Does EY Gig now hire gig workers for top level, middle level management? Absolutely, yes. That's what I was saying, that we were doing. I mean, we have people at senior and middle management as well who coming in and working with us for gig roles. Okay. Credibility is an issue when you lack experience, but I think you can build a credibility with no experience too, and start with that first gig, second gig, third gig, and build one. I think you got to start somewhere to be able to work through this, and I think what we're saying is credibility is then built on the basis of the performance that you have. uh, I'm absolutely certain that none of the organizations will expect to you to have a credibility rating on day one as you step into the corporate world. But what we're saying is, whatever you know, whatever good things people say about you, is important for you to reflect that on your digital profile or your CV. All right, that's pretty much that I think we have as questions.
I think, Gopal, there was one that may have got missed. You can correct me if I'm wrong. From Shalja Kumar. How can freelancing be incorporated into the consulting industry, especially management consulting or strategy consulting? This could be for someone graduating this year.
Just a second.
I think it was in the beginning.
Let me scroll that.
Shalja
Kumar. How can freelancing be incorporated in the consulting industry? This could be for someone graduating this year. So I think, as I said, Gig Now is a program that we are trying to attract talent through coming in as a freelancer. It's open for internships as well, and it's open for people coming in with 0 years of experience as well. What we're looking for is your educational background. We will be more than happy to offer short-term gigs as soon as we start hiring, and it could be aligned to the area of expertise that you have. So based on what background you bring in, you may be able to find a role for yourself with that background. So that's what my advice would be, to keep looking. So first, register on Gig Now, keep looking for roles that are available, and you'll start getting alerts even as you register on what are some of the roles that are available. And our team is dedicated to call back and give you a perspective on what that role is going to be. So you'll get to know more and hear more on that. I think, does EY hire gig workers? Yeah, I think I responded to this. Getting first gig for a fresher may be difficult despite having online presence. So any tips? Self-reliant India is what Modi ji says. So I think we need to really look for opportunities and create them. And that's what I said, even in my morning blog that I posted about before, when I was going to come and talk to you all. Opportunities are available, Divya. I think it's about how we go and present ourselves into the opportunities that are available. Gig is not a mindset. I mean, one should really understand that gig mindset is not about finding or being given the opportunities. I mean, as an entrepreneur, what are you ready to do even as you're just sitting idle and waiting for the job offer that you're going to get? How are you leveraging your time like this? In the last 90 days, what did you do? what is that idea that you want to pursue that becomes $100 million idea, or a 10 crore idea, right? And I think even talking more about that, and even talking more in terms of what you can do with that idea, may open doors for you to start your first gig. And I think it's important for all of us to get that right on the get-go, because it's not I'm not talking contracting here. I'm not talking about giving you opportunities for short-term roles. I mean, that may be the first stepping stone to this, but we all need to develop a mindset of how could we take care of ourselves, and how could we be responsible and accountable for our own careers. And if that career is in a freelancing world, how is that going to work through, right? I think that's what we're trying to work. Do we apply for role? We are selected based on the gig now profile. So register on gig now. I mean, I think that's the first step that you need to work through. Um, Registering allows you access to what are the roles that you may be suitable to. And if there are roles that are suitable, you can apply for those roles directly. Or we get notified of your candidature as soon as there is an open role that we post. So you get calls based on those as well. And that's what I would say. Yep. Any other questions, Sonia, that you have?
I actually had a one question, Gopal. When you sign up for the gig now, you sign up online, and I know many of my students are interested in this. What is the I guess the opportunity for that to then turn into something more permanent for those people who maybe are exploring the gig economy right now, but ultimately their goal is to get a permanent position wherever that is? Is it a good possibility?
So I would say it could be a gig after gig. It could be a gig role followed up with a permanent role. And I think the permanency factor comes in only if you're doing well as in the first 6 months. So you got to earn that. It's not a given. And I think that's the culture that we all need to really be okay with. I think that's where we are moving as an industry as well. Earn your next role is what I would say. Or you could probably find another gig in another organization and do well for yourself. Always be on the lookout for the right opportunities. Create an impact wherever you are, whatever you do. And I think if people love what you do, who you are as an individual, they will keep giving you work. One of the goals that we have as an organization, even in Gig Now, is to keep getting people back to continue doing gigs with us. And we'll do that only when we love the work that you have been doing in the opportunity that was given to you. And I think same holds good with us as consumers as well, right? We are loyalists as individual, right? We love going back and doing the same thing, watching the same Amitabh Bachchan movie, same Shah Rukh Khan movie, and I think that's what will continue even in this space. So ensure that you really create a phenomenal personal brand for yourself, and I think that's what is most important.
I wanted to tack on to that because you highlighted the importance of your online presence. And I don't know about you, Gopal, but when I first went back into work, back into my career after a break, and I'm a lawyer by profession and very old school, yeah, very old school in terms of networking. And when we would network in the UK, it was in person. It was dinners or meetings or whatever. Huge networking industry back home. Then coming back here, my colleagues at ISBF kept saying, LinkedIn. I'd be like, okay. Maybe it's not the right thing to say, but I personally just couldn't get into it. I'm like, this, I can't. But during the lockdown and in the space of a couple of months, I'm totally convinced. And the amount of networking I've been able to do, even on LinkedIn, and my, on the other side, I'm not even a student. I'm working, but the amount of networking I've been able to do on LinkedIn over the last couple of months is, I get that there's another way to network. It doesn't have to be in person, and it's just as successful. And I picked that up from what you were saying, and I want to reiterate that to the students here today. And you're absolutely right. you can't go to someone and say, okay, but what jobs are there? Well, you know, and you have little online presence, because that's all it's about right now.
Absolutely. And I think, I happen to be a career transitions coach as well. And I have, in the last several years, spoken to so many people who are probably stuck in their mid-career crisis, not knowing what to do, and how should they approach their next move. And I ask them simple one question: how are you searching for jobs? And their response would be, I'm applying for jobs through all the possible sites. I said, fine, give me a link to your LinkedIn profile, let me see what you've done. And they'll say, oh, that's dormant, I don't even go there. And my question would be, why? And I think, how do you expect people to know who you are, what you do, what you bring onto the table? um, oh, but that's not what recruiters look for. And I said, that answer is wrong. And I think the recruiters first look today at your digital presence, make an assumption, make a perception based on who you are there, because they don't want to be wasting time in talking to an individual who ends up being different on CV and different on when you speak to this person. Leave all of that for that matter, right? We all know this fact that as we grow in the career, the number of roles that are open for us as individuals are going to continue to reduce, because there's only that many roles that are available, but there are so many people that are applying for that particular position, and that's a no-brainer. How else do you think you will be making yourself eligible for that role? Like in the last 2 or 3 roles that I've moved into, it's all on the basis of networking. Do I know this person who could help me out in getting this position? Do I know this person? And it's all a matter of conversations that helps you get the role. Now, people need to be open to the idea of networking a lot more beyond. Only with that, they will continue to grow in their careers. If I were to say growth in the current times may look very different, but grow meaning finding your next gig or finding your next opportunity. Extremely important for all of us to keep a note of this, especially in the last 100 days have proved that people who have been digitally savvy, digitally present, digitally doing well have continued to give growth to themselves and their businesses. People who haven't have really been isolated in the last 90 days, um, physically and digitally both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from anyone? I don't see any on the... I don't think I have any others, Gopal. Yeah, I don't think so.
Awesome.
Bang
So,
on time.
yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. It was great interacting with you all. Would love to stay in touch. And as I said, if you're looking for gig, register on gignow.com. I really would love to connect with some of you to see how this aligns with your future career proposition, and look forward to being in touch.
Thank you so much. I've learned so much today as well, which I knew I would. And for sure, we will be in touch. And thank you for all your, like I think Jitin had said, that EY is we have a good partnership with them. In fact, somebody was placed there last week from ISBF in a role. And so, we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time, and look forward to being in touch.
Thank you, Gopal.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.